Good afternoon. I'm Chaplain Morris, and we're going to have a great 40 or 50 minutes here. But the way I'd like to do this with you, I learned this painfully. For some reason, people don't like preachers answering questions they haven't asked. You ever been in a sermon that was talking about something you weren't interested in? Was it boring? Would you like to be bored this hour? I don't think so. So you had a lot of workshops you could have gone to. You chose to come to this workshop for a specific reason. There's something here you want to get. So tell me up front, what is it that you wanted to get out of this workshop so I can make sure we address that? This is the emotional effects of war, combat stress. What did you want to get out of this?
How I can help him deal with the stress.
Don says, how can I help him deal with the stress? I hope he's getting a class on how he can help you deal with your stress. Okay, because there's stress on both sides, aren't there? What else do you want to get out of this? By the way, there's boxes of Kleenex. That should be a little bit of a hint. We're going to talk about some tough stuff here, okay? What else do you want to get out of this? It's going to be a quick class.
Just like what they've gone through so we can at least kind of relate.
Okay, what have they gone through? What's that? What do we look for? Okay, good. Anybody else? That's it? Well, let's start with some fun stuff. Pull your folder out, would you? Your blue folder. Bill, can I look over your shoulder? Okay, you got a blue folder, and in that folder you should have a flyer that says, "We need to say thanks." Can somebody pull that out? It looks like this. It's brown, beige. What color is this, Courtney? Tan? It's tan, Courtney says. That's $250, ladies and gentlemen, waiting for your soldier. All you got to do is put the right form, fill it out, send it in. 2 weeks later, you get a check from that foundation saying thank you. I've done it. It works. It's real. If your soldier was wounded, they'll receive more. Here in the building is the Minnesota Department of Revenue. They have a representative here. The state of Minnesota wants to give your soldier $59 a month for every month they were in Iraq, Kosovo, Bosnia. So please, thank you so much, please see the Minnesota Department of Revenue, that lady, and get that tax form or go on the Minnesota Revenue website. That's a lot of money. And that your soldier has earned. A lot of times your soldier's not aware of that. I'm making you aware of it, okay? That's the good news. Now you have two other folders I want, excuse me, William, I'm sorry, Bill. Two other folders I want you to pull out. One says Battle Mind Training. It's red, white, and blue, transitioning from combat to home. If you forget everything I say today, it's in this folder. It's in that DVD that you have in there, and it's in that book, Downrange to Iraq and Back. 3 different ways you can recall this information if you forget what I have to say. Okay? How's that? The final thing, a somber thing to make you aware of, this is the only place you're going to hear about this. You have a folder that says traumatic brain injury and post-concussion syndrome. I'm going to pull that out because that's very important information. All right. Tasha, would you hold yours up so everybody can see what you've got? Thank you so much. If your soldier was involved in an explosion, how many of you have heard of improvised explosive devices? Rocket attacks, where there's a big boom near your soldier. You need to be aware of this. Here's a sign to look for. If they're wearing this badge, it's the combat action badge. It's a dagger with a wreath around it. Or the combat infantry badge, which is a rifle with a wreath around it. It means somebody shot at them. Really close. Ask them, were you ever in an explosion? Here's what happens to a small number of soldiers. They survive the explosion, and physically they don't look hurt. The medic looks at them, there's no bleeding, nothing broken, no fluid coming out of their ears. Their eyes look okay. Or maybe they had a mild concussion, and one eye, pupil's bigger than the other. But they look them over, and everything looks good. They give them a day off, and everything returns to normal. That's great. For a small percentage of people, they come home, though, and the family begins to notice some changes. Mood swings, forgetfulness, whatever. This brochure will explain some of the symptoms. The soldier doesn't see it in themselves. What's happened is Their brain has been bruised by the concussion. Shaking baby syndrome, that's what a bomb can do to you. It slaps your brain around inside your cranium. The good news is the world leading treatment program for this is in Minneapolis. The bad news is a lot of soldiers don't recognize this in themselves. The family sees it, takes the soldier to the local doctor. The doctor thinks they have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And they don't get at the organic problem. It's not a mental illness. It's a concussion wound. It needs to be treated. It's not a lot of soldiers, but for the soldiers it affects, it's big. So I'm giving this to you as one more thing to be aware of in case your soldier's been through an explosion and you see some pronounced change when they come home. Okay? Now when I give that piece of information, it usually scares people badly. So let's see what your questions are and fears are so that I can get those dealt with before we go any further. Anybody? I see some wide eyes. What are you thinking? What are you feeling here? Did that scare anybody? Okay, tell me about that.
Well, my fiance's been into like situations like that, so he already like had to go on stuff like that.
Okay. Is it Steph?
Yep.
Okay, Steph's saying, you know, my fiance has already reported back. He's been through several explosions, and he's saying things that already trouble me, like I can't sleep at night. And now I add it to your worry. Wow, does he have this? So, what are you going to do to cope with that fear? You're going to take this information, and what are you going to do as you observe your soldier? You're going to watch. And what if you see these signs? What's going to go off in your head? A red light. Is it hopeless? Is this a hopeless situation? Why is it not hopeless? There's help available. That's the good news. Yes, war wounds some soldiers. The tragedy would be if you didn't know how to dress the wound. The good news is, if your soldier's wounded, we have help available. Let's get it. That's the good news. And this injury is a treatable injury. The VA is making great progress with it. Let's deal with it. Doesn't affect a lot of people, but I'm giving this information so if you see it, you know what you're looking at. Does that help? Dawn, you got a question? No? No?
Do you have a percentage? How many it does affect?
You know, they're just looking at this as a real issue. We know that about 20% of soldiers go through these concussive experiences, okay, when they're out on convoys and stuff like that. What of that percentage? It's not big enough yet to have a statistic. Does that make sense? And there's a fine line. How do we determine what's emotional and organic? Because when I x-ray your brain, I don't see a bruise. But you've had a concussion. So we're learning as we go. Good news is we're looking for this and we're dealing with it. And you live in a state that has the world's leading brain injury association. Great website, one whole part of the website dedicated to the military. So you're in a great place if this affects your soldier. Won't be a big percentage, but it will be some. Does that make sense? This is my picture outside of Fallujah. The only reason I show this to you is to say I have a little connection with where most of your soldiers are because I was there. It was 2004. It was Easter Sunday morning. We had the day before dropped a leaflet on the city that said, if you want to live, leave now. This day we dropped a leaflet on the city that said, if you're here, you're going to die. And that's what we were doing that day, killing people. We surrounded the city and we were attacking it from 4 angles with the full intention of taking the city. And if you opposed us, you were going to get killed. We did that for 5 days until the president said, stop, and we pulled out. So I'm not telling you what I read in the book here. I'm telling you about 2 combat experiences, 2 tours, that's correlated by what you have in the book, the DVD, and that handout. But let me give you some good news. There's 2 big things you're going to see in your soldiers coming home that are common, that the vast majority of soldiers blow past, adapt to, and get on very easily. So the good news is, most of what you hear today, you're not going to deal with. That's the good news. The bad news is, I don't know who here is going to have a soldier that's going to be the small percentage that really struggles. So I give the news to everybody, I have spouses call me probably about once every other week to say, I have a problem. What is it? My soldier's been home a year, half a year. Yeah, what's the problem? I don't see any of the things you said. That's good, ma'am. No, you said they were going to have these issues. Ma'am, if they're not having them, that's good. No, really, what should I be doing? Ma'am, have you been watching Oprah again? Okay, so that's the good news. Here's the two things you're going to see. One, I'm going to give you a quiz on. Where in Minnesota do you report, stand in line, they take your civilian clothes off, put them in a pile, put a uniform on you, and when you cross this invisible line, you've lost your freedom. You no longer get to order off a menu. You get told when to go to bed. You get told who you're going to be sharing a room with. You get told when to get up. You get told what to do 24/7. What institution is that?
Stillwater State Prison.
Yes. Your soldier is having a prison-like experience. The most common thing we experience in the military is what it's like to leave prison and readapt to freedom. If you keep that in your mind, most of the things you're going to see will make sense to you. When I went down to Camp Shelby, your soldier lined up and willingly surrendered their freedom so other people could be free. And when they crossed that line into Shelby, we accepted responsibility to think for your soldier, to tell your soldier what to do, and to train your soldier to live in the way we want them to live. And now they live on a forward operating base where they have limited freedom, limited choices, and they have now droned into a prison-like existence. That's going to be a problem when we release it. In Minnesota, if I release you from Stillwater Prison after 22 months of incarceration, I'm going to give you a parole officer. Because you're going to have a challenge, finding a job, learning to live, be in society. In the Army, we give you a medal, and we turn you back over to your family. The good news in Minnesota is, we do more. What you're going through now, nowhere else in the United States. Your soldier will come to Fort McCoy before your soldier ever leaves Iraq. Our psychologists and chaplains will have met with your soldier and their squad to talk about these issues. At Fort McCoy, I will have a whole day with your soldier. They will hate me. They will tell you, they are already telling you how stupid that is and how dumb I am. We'll have a whole day of Minnesota-specific reintegration training. Then, 30 days later, I'm going to bring your soldier back. You're invited to come. What you're having today, your soldier has that day. It's like a Girl Scout jamboree, the way they act. They're so happy to see each other, it's unbelievable. 60 days later, I am St. John to them. Because by then, everything I said is coming to be true. And they're thankful because we've already saved some lives. And the guys that they know are in problems, they know that we can get help for them. At 60 days, we train them in anger management, substance abuse prevention, gambling abuse prevention, and the State Patrol has an hour with them. In 90 days, we'll bring all your soldiers to Camp Ripley, head-to-toe physical exam, head-to-toe emotional assessment. Right there from Ripley, they go get help. If they need it, right from Ripley to help. Okay, no place else in the country doing this. I'm sad to say that, and I'm not boasting as though I'm arrogant. I'm saying that to assure you, to take some of the fear level away, that we want to help you with this reintegration process because it's big. What you're not seeing is we're training our whole full-time staff on how to help your soldier. We're in all of your communities, training your community leaders. I've been here to Alexandria twice, down in that auditorium, packed it out twice with your community leaders on what they can do to help you and your soldier with this. The governor just told the adjutant general, hey, you're going to form a task force of all the state agencies to figure out how to help these families and their soldiers, okay? Because it's going to take the whole state to bring us home and help you bring your family together again. So I say that to assure you, because we're talking about some big challenges here. 22 months of incarceration, if we use that model, to freedom is big for anybody. Let me stop there and see if that makes sense to you. Does that raise any questions that you want to probe? The most common things you're going to see are people struggling to adapt to freedom. The second thing that makes it complex is that I train your soldier to be a warrior. Now look, bluntly said, that means your soldier, the day they hit the ground in Iraq, was capable, willing, able, on reflex, to shoot another human being. On reflex, ladies and gentlemen. Now why do I say on reflex? What do I mean by that?
You don't think.
You don't think. That's why we do repetitive combat training, because fear paralyzes you and causes you to hesitate, and that gets people killed. To override fear, we train you to a level where you react and we short circuit what fear is doing to you. The problem with that is if I've trained you to react and it's down in your muscle memory, what are you going to do when you feel frightened? Here. React. I don't have a button. I don't have a switch to say, okay, look, those skills only apply in Iraq. So I gave you a folder with 8 skills I trained your soldier to be successful with, that your soldier is successful with, and none of the skills work here. They don't do well on the job with those 8 skills. They've got to turn those skills off, set them aside, let them go, and readapt to freedom. The prison skills don't work. Does that make sense? I'm trying to make it as simple for you to understand so that when you see some of these things, it's not abnormal. I'm reacting the way I was trained. It's going to take me a while to learn to do things differently. Simple example, common. Reacting to loud noise. Loud noise in Iraq means what? Danger. Take cover. Loud noise in Alexandria means my brain cannot distinguish in a nanosecond. Boom means fight or flight. And I react. Looks weird to you. Feels weird to me when it's over. Am I crazy? No. But unfortunately, people will tell you that this way. You must have post-traumatic stress disorder. Folks, that's a mental illness. Only a clinical psychologist or a psychiatrist could diagnose that. You just told me I was crazy. I feel crazy. Looking for cover in Dairy Queen's not a normal thing. So I feel crazy and you told me I'm crazy. Maybe I'm not crazy. I'm a combat veteran having a normal reaction because I was in an abnormal place. 9 months later, that sound goes up, I'm probably not going to react because I've readapted. But you jump on me early and tell me I'm crazy. Be careful. It's when my daily behavior is impeded and affected by how I'm dealing with combat that there's a warning sign there. If I'm having panic attacks because I feel so frightened and I can't go to work, now we got a problem. If I'm drinking so much because I'm so depressed or so haunted that I can't get up and go to school, now we got a problem. If I'm driving in such a way to endanger your life and my life, which some of us did before we went to combat, then we have a problem. Do you see what I'm saying? But I got to have some time here to readjust. And most of this will all dissipate over time. That's the good news. Prison, warrior. Got those 2 things? It's going to explain a lot to you. Let me stop and see what I've said here that has triggered any comments or questions from you. Am I helping or hindering? This is the only time you can talk back in church. Come on. Am I helping you or hindering you? That's what you're thinking, well, I'm not putting anything into the offering, so that's how I'll talk. Your soldier now is used to living in insecurity and danger. Think about this. When you live next to an airport, at first do you notice the airplanes? And then what happens? You adapt. Then when do you next notice airplanes? When they're gone. Your soldier, some of your soldiers are living in places where they hear explosions on a regular basis. They sleep right through them. They're going out driving on roads that have bombs on them. Don't even think about it. We have to put signs up that say complacency kills. Why do we have to do that? They get complacent in the face of danger. When do carpenters cut their fingers off? Early in their career, late in their career? Late, because they get used to danger. Okay? You know when your soldier's going to feel insecure here? When there's no danger. When it's quiet. You're going to call me and go, he gets up. She gets up 3 times a night. Says something's wrong. What's wrong? It's so quiet. Yeah, that's why we live in Alexandria. Yeah. Why do you feel like you need this weapon here? It's too quiet out there. Something's going to happen. The only thing that's going to happen is the deer are coming through the backyard. And if you shoot them, we're going to be in big trouble. Can you see why that would happen, though? Why would I feel in danger at the Mall of America 2 or 3 weeks after being home from Fallujah? It's crowded. Who's in control? It's not me. In Iraq, in a crowd of people, what do I have that makes me in control? A weapon. If I point it at you, one of 2 things are going to happen. I have nothing in the Mall of America. Suddenly through the crowd, here comes a Somali woman in a full abaya. What have I been trained to do? So you want to go shopping, and I want to do what? I want out of there now. I want out of Applebee's. I want out of parties that you're having for me. I want out now. Because withdrawal in the face of overwhelming force is something I'm trained to do. Get out of that situation. It's a mismatch. You don't have enough firepower. There's no avenues of escape. My reaction's going to kick in. I'm threatened. Does that make sense to you? So, hey, let's go easy on the big parties early on. Let's go easy on the crowded places. Let's talk and find out what they're comfortable with. And not this Minnesota talk. Not from Mississippi. You guys talk sideways sometimes. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? And then, Grandma, she's always guilting you. Well, I guess nobody wants to have the party I wanted to have. And what does everybody do? Oh, Grandma really wants to have the party. We got to have the party. What does a soldier want? What does a soldier need? The soldier says 9 times out of 10, the soldier says, I need quiet and space. Give me a couple of weeks, 3 weeks before we throw all this in. Combat devolves us. Prison devolves us. It's about survival. I'm not used to doing a lot of thinking for myself. I watch your back, you watch my back. Everybody above us is dumb. Isn't that what your emails are saying? That's why you're laughing, right? Look, when you're a prisoner, the only thing you have control over is complaining. We like to say when soldiers stop complaining, then we have a problem. Soldiers complain. It's about me. It's about survival. I don't do dishes in Iraq, I don't cook in Iraq, and I don't do laundry in Iraq. Doesn't that sound cool? So I come home. You ask me to cook? I want it now. I've been used to people give me everything I want. You ask me to do laundry, cook, be responsible, work together, take care of the kids, go see grandma. It starts doing what to me? Overwhelming me. It looks selfish to you. And plus, you feel some coldness. Like, hey, all the emotions aren't engaged. You're right. Because if I could feel all my emotions in Iraq, I'd roll up like a baby. I got to hold some of those things in check until I get home. And you have the emotional IQ of a genius, and my emotional IQ's kind of gone down. Because in the Army, we don't have a big language. Half of it's too foul to say here, and the other half summed up in one word. What is it? Hua. It has 500 different meanings. I don't need to say a lot of things. I just say hua. It's primitive, right? Now I come home and you're talking. Hua. It's complex to re-engage. You see what I'm getting at? You feel like it's emotional distance and rejection. It's not. It's an adaptation. I love you. I want to re-engage with you. But I have to catch up, and it's going to take a while, and it's very frustrating while I'm trying to catch up. Okay, am I helping here? Here's what I'm going to struggle with. The very things that you treasure about your society, the things on the right, are the things I'm going to have to relearn. I'm going to have to learn that I really am safe in this classroom. I'm going to have to learn to trust again and to think about us and not just about me. And that's going to take a transition. That's the normal stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? That's the normal stuff. Now here's the sad news. 30% of our soldiers, 4 to 5 months after combat, are showing some signs of mental health issues. Now I'm going to take some pain out of that, and then I'm going to give you the stark reality behind it. What's the most common mental health issue in America? Depression. That's my main problem. Most common thing you're going to see in soldiers, if they're having mental health problems, is depression. What's the toughest day for a Super Bowl champion or an Olympic gold medal athlete? What's their toughest day? They won the gold medal. They're at the top of the world. They won the Super Bowl and went to Disney World. The day after. That's what I'm going to struggle with. The day after. I just went and did the biggest thing in my life for most of us, and now what? There it is. The biggest mental health issue you're going to see me face is not post-traumatic stress disorder. It's not nightmares. It's not flashbacks. It's depression. And that's about a third of us. Now, what makes this difficult for me is my family is gone. I'm home with my family, but I miss my family. What do I mean by that?
Fellow soldiers.
Now, people I hate today. Now, whenever you laugh, I know I'm reading your mail, right? How many of you got somebody in your soldier's unit that they just can't stand? And they, you know, when you want to talk about love and family, what do they want to talk about? This lieutenant is a, you know, and you're like, woo, what's that language? Yeah. Okay? When I come home, I strip those families away from your soldier. I turn them to you. But who understands where they've been? Who validates their experience? Who normalizes what they saw, did, smelled, and felt? Can't be you. It's not your fault. It just can't be you. So, if I return to Fort Bragg or Fort Campbell like these active duty soldiers, if I have any struggles, I have a first sergeant like Bill who stands in front of me every morning and looks me in the eye. So if I'm really depressed and start drinking a lot, guess what he sees? My job performance suffers. And you know what he does? He makes me get help. Here, if I come home and I'm getting depressed and I'm struggling, my Army family, do they see that? They're not there to see it. Who sees it? You do. That's why we have you here today. Because you're the front line to see any changes and point us in directions of help if we need it. And that's why we're so glad you're here and so hope that you pass this information on. What you're going to see 2 to 3 weeks after your soldier returns, they're going to hurt you by saying, I want to go hang out with Fred. You're like, hello? Fred? This ugly guy? The guy you said you couldn't wait to get away from, who snores, who's got stinky feet? You want to go hang out with him? Within 2 or 3 weeks, some of your soldiers are going to come to the armory without an invitation. How are you going to feel about that? It's like we have a daycare sign on top of the armory. Some of them wear their uniform down to the armory. It's not even drill. We're like, can we help you? Yeah, give me a cup of coffee. And they sit around all day telling us stories, half of which aren't true. And we don't have, you know, it's like we got jobs to do, and these guys come in. Now, why do they do that?
We need to connect.
They need to connect with this. They can't say it, they don't understand the feeling, but they're out in society and they realize, I don't fit. I miss the family. Within 6 weeks, in an argument, some of your soldiers are going to look you in the eye and say, I want to go back to Iraq. It doesn't take long. You ever heard about prisoners reoffending to go back to prison? That's common stuff that I'm giving you. It's not mental illness stuff. It's common stuff. It's men and women who've had an incredibly intense experience, been away a long, long time, molded into a way of life, and now they have to come home to a society that is just different from them. We are warriors coming home to a civilian society. And it's a big, big challenge. Now let me stop there and see what questions you have. Go ahead. Is it Kathy?
Yes, that's right. My husband loves to go to the gym. I mean, it's always just been him from this time of marriage, and he's gonna miss that. I know that's gonna be the thing.
Okay, how much muscle did he put on so far in a row? What do prisoners do in prison? There's two things prisoners do. They come out looking like Mr. Atlas and Mrs. Atlas. We're going to see some of that. Or they're going to come back like this. No kidding. We call it the KBR belly. 30 pounds. Because you know what? When you go into the chow hall, nobody's telling you what to do. They can't give you a PT test in a combat zone. What are they going to do? Send you home? Okay? Yeah, they give it to them, but what are they going to do? Okay, I failed. Yeah, whip me. You know what? So what? So guys go into that chow hall and they, hey, I'm free. This is the only thing I can do that's free. Another guy goes down and, yeah, he works out. I'm about to get to that. Prisoners get into prison routines. And it hurts you. Some of your guys have DVD collections. How tall? Now, why are you laughing? Because you heard about this. And they're going to sell those. They used your money to buy them. And then they're going to sell them to the next Joe for $1 a pop. Buy it for 10, sell for $1. Come on now. In Mississippi, we do that and think that's a deal. You guys are smarter than that, right? But that's what they're going to do. So what does that tell you that they do every day? What routine are they in? Do a mission, and then what? Mind turn to mush. Where's it going to flip that switch when they come home? Number one marital problem I have, number one problem I have with single soldiers and their parents. My soldier comes home and does his or her own thing. Tell me what they do. They watch movies. Where they learn that? Or, another big thing in Iraq, what's this? Game station, Courtney. PlayStation. Soldiers have all this money. They go down to the PX right there. Or they buy it from other Joes who are leaving. Big setups. 3 or 4 guys shooting, fighting all night long, playing golf, doing all kinds of stuff. We have to go in and tell people to go to sleep. Because they have a mission at 5 in the morning and they're up at 2 playing some stupid game. What do you think they're going to do when they come home? It's a habit. It's a pattern that's been repeated over and over. How does that feel to you? I thought we were going to have these intimate evenings, talk, share stories, and all you want to do is watch what? Stupid movies. Mind turned to mush. Okay? Go to the gym. And okay, but remember, I have these routines that kept me sane. How do I lift and shift to a new routine? Very difficult. Do you know anything about people getting habits and having a hard time? Not people you know, but have you ever read about this? That's us. This is the common stuff, folks, okay? These are the common things you're going to see. I'm going to feel alienated when I come home. You already do. The thing we have in common with our soldiers is we're alienated from our society. How many people in your society, your town, your church, your school, your employment place really understand what you're going through? Anybody here been on the end of some insensitive, unintended insensitive remarks? They were just stupid remarks because the person didn't understand what you're going through. Anybody besides? Is there anybody that hasn't? It happens, right? People say things like, oh, doesn't seem like he's been gone very long. How do you feel about the war? What do you think? Promises made that weren't kept? You know, what does it do? It makes us feel like I'm having this experience nobody else is having. My wife said it this way. She says, 2 wars, right? She goes, cancer would have been easier. Because people understand cancer. But war, they don't get it. Because they don't know anybody that's going through this. So they don't know what to do. So what they do is they avoid it. I'm out here on this boat by myself. Can't get the support I need because people just don't know what to do. They'd know what to do if a tornado roared through. They'd know what to do if my house burned down. They'd know what to do if I had cancer, but they don't know what to do for this. So they don't do anything. And then on top of it, I got politicians telling me my husband's wasting his life. You know, somebody says something to your soldier that causes your soldier to shut down. Usually it's, did you kill anybody? Or you think we're winning? And that's not such a bad question, but they don't really want a full answer. They want a soundbite answer, and they usually already have the answer that they want to tell you. I'll give you an example. I flew on an airplane. The guy sat next to me. He found out I was in the Army. He spent 3 hours telling me how to win the war in Iraq. And I kept saying, you know, hey, sir, I got a book. He just went on. You know, I'm trying to be civil. But everything's in me like, hey, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. But it's a volatile issue. People want to talk about it. And when you're a soldier and you've been there, somehow there's a sign on your head that says, talk to me about Iraq. And what it does is it makes me feel alienated. Then I only want to talk to my buddies. This complexity I've already talked to you about. Most of us knew we wanted to be soldiers when we were this high. For most of us, going to war is like the Super Bowl of our lives. It's a pretty big experience. In the Army, we put a patch on our right shoulder after we've gone to combat. It's a badge of honor. And it tells you something psychologically about that experience and its impact on us. What do I replace that with when I come home? I'm going to go back to some kind of job that's a normal job. Doesn't have that intensity to it, most jobs. Does that make sense? Or I come back to school, and that's where the depression sets in. Life doesn't have the intensity anymore. And most of us realize, I can't go back to war, but I got to stay here. How do I adapt? And I have no training to figure that out. So we substitute, some of us, unhealthy things, mainly alcohol. Sometimes drugs, not many soldiers. Promiscuity, gambling, getting a lot of my younger soldiers. I'm looking for speed. I'm looking for an edge. I'm looking for adventure. Spice up my life. Speed in the form of motor vehicles and motorcycles, the other thing. And that kills a lot of soldiers when they come home. That's our big worry here in Minnesota. We're going to lose a lot of guys on motorcycles. So we're asking the State Patrol to actually run a motorcycle driver refresher course for our guys. If your soldier buys a cycle, I would simply say to you, make them take a class before they ride the bike. And don't let them drive with alcohol in their system. It's just common sense, right? At the end of it, when you scratch deep enough, hey, what are you trying to do here? I'm trying to find a way to fill a void. Okay? Now, if you have a particularly stubborn soldier, line them up with me. Because I'm a skydiver. And I take these guys who have a void in their life, I say, I'll fill it for you. When you get you close to Jesus, you're going to have all the thrill you want. It's 120 miles an hour. There's not too many bikes you can do that on legally. And dude, you get your life in your own hands. I mean, if you're the warrior you say you are, here we go. Then they get in the airplane with me, scared to death. And I get to preach. Because there's no way to get out. And what we do is we talk about this need we have and why we have it. And how do we do this in a healthy way? And then I say, look, what you need to do is you need to become an EMT, paramedic, a firefighter, reserve law enforcement, scuba diver for long. You need to find a positive way to put yourself on the edge. Because we need people like you to do that. You need to challenge your soldier to greatness. Because I won't be there to do it for them. Soldiers go on to be great leaders in society after war. That's been proven in every war. Vietnam was the same. This will be the same. You give us 5-10 years, we'll lead this society. We'll change the state. We're going to change the country. We're already trying. In the November election, a lot of veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan ran. In Minnesota, we had 2 combat veterans running for Minnesota offices. One was a 25-year-old college student down in St. Peter, Minnesota, almost won a seat in the Minnesota House of Representatives. 3 tours, 2 in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan. Great example to me. There's one downstairs teaching the parenting a single soldier class. That's what we're going to be. Challenge us to that. We'll rise to the challenge. Does it make sense? Here's what I say to my soldiers. We're better than everybody else. We work harder. We're more disciplined. We're about selfless service. And if we are better, we need to be better. Go ahead.
Not long after the troops were first deployed, someone came to the community at the Sauk Center and talked about, it was a National Guard person, about how you really should discourage your soldier from taking a different job soon after he comes back.
Comes back, yeah.
And
That was an Army Reserve person.
okay.
Yeah, I know her.
And my husband is, doing everything he can to get a master's, so he
Yeah.
can get a different job when he gets back.
She's
And now you're
wrong.
kind of going
Yeah, she's
contrary
wrong.
to
Hey,
what
look, I sit out there on patrol. I sit out there in a guard tower in Fallujah, staring out in the desert for 12 months. I think, when I get done being bored to death, I'd like to do something a little better than what I was doing at the widget factory. And I'm earning all these GI Bill benefits. You know what? When I come home, I'm going to better my life. That's a good thing. Instead of, hey, you go back to the widget factory, be bored to death for a year on top of all this. I expect a lot of guys to come home and do bigger and better things. That's why we're tied up with colleges. We're kind of not so subtly hinting to guys and women. Yeah, come back and get a better job. Come back and do more productive things. Because what I don't want you to get stuck in Iraq in your identity. I don't want you to go back to a lousy job and pine the rest of your life for the good old days in Fallujah. I want you to come home, leverage your combat experience, and go on and do great things. Okay? But also, I don't want you to come home and trade in your wife because you met a fat lady on the chat line from Southern Alabama. I want you to pick up your responsibilities and leverage those to greater things. Does that make sense? But yeah, what that lady was trying to say, Kathy, was try not to change too much too quick when the soldier comes home. Well, that's good advice, but some of these soldiers will be like, they're revved up to hit life hard because they feel like they were in prison and they want to catch up. Does that make sense? Okay, so the final thing here, tough thing to deal with here, and we'll ask questions about this. Finding peace when you come home. Most of us, the peace we have to deal with, I can illustrate this way. If your soldier comes home with a band on their wrist, what's on that band? The name of somebody they knew that got killed. Okay? What might I have if I survive and they die? Guilt. Some of your soldiers are getting very close to the Iraqis. They work with the Iraqi army, our police, our translators. And I apologize if I get emotional. It's a big issue for me. And it will be for some of your soldiers. You wonder what happened to them because they risked their lives to work for you. And you feel like you let them down by leaving. You come home and you know that you're uniquely trained to do a job other people won't do, can't do, or are not able to do. And you feel like, I should be back doing that. There's nothing here in the United States as important as securing the freedom of that country to secure our freedom. Some of us feel that way, we really do. And that's what makes it hard to go back to our old jobs. We feel like we left a very important job. And I tell you what, if they pull us out of Iraq, you're going to have some really hurting soldiers. Because we're going to feel like we condemned a bunch of people to their death. And how do we come to peace with that? I don't know. I don't know. But I tell you, it's not something you can fix with Oprah-level psychology. So my guidance to you is don't try to fix it. Just listen if we share it with you. If you see us wrestling with this in unhealthy ways, alcohol, anger, withdrawal, bar brawling, or whatever, then it's a sign I need some help. Don't try to fix it. Just champion me getting some guided support. A lot of the guilt that some of us struggle with is related to you. I mean, my God, look at what you paid for other people's freedom. And you got drafted. See, we volunteered for this, but you got drafted. And I'll illustrate it this way. Sat down with I have 3 daughters, okay? Sat down with my middle daughter, she shows me pictures of prom. She starts to cry. Hey, Dad, I really wish you could have been here. At that moment, you could have taken a knife, cut my heart out without anesthesia. It couldn't hurt more. There's nothing I can say to her that's going to make that right. But that's what keeps me up late at night. And I know other dads that didn't miss prom. They didn't sign up for the military. They're home every night at 5. They got all those precious memories. This kid's got to go to school. Her dad wasn't there. I'm not asking you to fix that, but it bothers me. I look at my mother. My brother went to Iraq twice. I went once. She aged 10 years in a year. She can't get those years back. Okay, you see what I'm saying? That's much more common for us. A few of us go out and hunt the enemy down and kill him. That is a life-transforming experience for the few that have to do that. For some sensitive souls, that will haunt them the rest of their lives. For most of us, you may be surprised. It's business. If I didn't kill him, he would have killed me. That's what I was trained to do. For some of us, I can't say it's a source of pride, but there's some job satisfaction in killing bad people. I'm just telling it to you in a blunt way. Those people were blowing up innocent people and keeping this village in terror, and I helped end that. You don't get that job satisfaction at Walmart. And so when we're with each other and we talk, we're proud of that. We're very proud of that. We feel it's noble. It's like a cop who takes a predator off the street. Now that's, in this society, this is like heresy, the stuff I'm saying to you. Yesterday I just said this to 120 psychologists. I mean, they just about ate me alive. During the question and answer period, the guy came down, was chewing me out. I said, you know what, sir, I don't care what you think. I'm not here to ask you what you think. I'm here to ask you to help our soldiers. Never been in the military. What does he know? Now, some of us, what really disturbs us is innocent people getting killed. And that happens. Not often, but occasionally. You've read about it. It does happen. I'm here to tell you, we have a few bad soldiers, not many. American soldiers will risk their lives and give their lives so that innocent people don't die. But this enemy we have puts us in situations sometimes you cannot imagine. To shoot at you from the middle of a playground of a school when kids are out there and know that if you don't fire back, your buddy's vehicle's going to get hit. What do you do? What do you do? And then how do you live with yourself? That, for a few individuals, that torments you. I don't know anybody that's involved in a firefight that innocent people get killed that don't go away feeling terribly burdened for the rest of their lives. That's the way we are as Americans. We really are moral people. And that's hard. Okay? So I don't know what's coming back from 2-136. I don't know. Most people never fired a weapon in that battalion. Some did. Maybe a few got involved where there were innocent people hurt. But how do I come to peace? Now I have a society that's telling me what about this war? Mistake. It was a big mistake. Just get out. I hear that as we did something wrong. Where do I go to? And what you're going to see there is I'm going to shut down in discussions about the war. So when we're having Christmas and your crazy uncle wants to talk war, I'm going to get up and leave. And you're going to think that's rude. But you could be glad I left because you don't want to see what I was going to say. And if he comes back for Easter with that mouth, and the longer this goes, the more angry many of us get. Not hard for me to prove this. Scratch a Vietnam veteran. And what do you get right beneath the surface? Anger. Okay, because they can't come to peace. You know, I gave this, I saw people die, and now you're telling me it was all a big waste? Best year of my life. Best years of my life. Confusing. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You can't fix this stuff. I'm just asking you to be aware of it, sensitive to it. Don't stand in judgment. Don't tell me I'm crazy. And if it affects my daily life, I need some help. Okay? But most of us are going to work through all of this and be leaders in society. That's the good news. What questions do you have? Yes.
You talk about when you come home that you guys see each other at 30, 60, and 90 days. What if your soldier actually has a full-time military job? Do you see more struggles because they're going back into that, or do you see less?
Well, less struggles in one way, Rhonda, harder for you. So we're going to have a special reintegration program for full-time force and spouses.
Good.
Because your soldier comes home and the war doesn't end.
Right.
Still has a mission and pushes you to the side to take care of whom? Their family. And you're like, well, what about us? And your soldier's so busy taking care of everybody else, you're not taking care of themselves their family.
Is
So-
that gonna come up like at one of the 30, 60, 90?
No, we're gonna have a special day just for you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, your soldiers are gonna get ordered to come, because they won't come otherwise.
Okay.
How about that, Rhonda?
That works for me.
Yeah.
Is that already planned?
Yeah, we still have the dates because we're not sure, how this whole thing plans. But we've already planned what we want to do for the full-time spouses and full-time force, because we've seen so many challenges with that force, and we've heard from so many of the spouses. So the nice thing is they don't lose their family. The bad thing is they don't re-engage with this family.
Right,
I just
'cause
had
the
one of
kids
those guys
still see them get in
speaking to you.
uniform and go to work the next day, and they're gonna think when
Yeah.
they're walking out that
Oh,
door, it's for
yeah.
a long time again.
That guy just spoke down there in the auditorium. That's one of those guys, full-time guy.
So is this after, like a certain amount of time after they return to work? Because they'll have their,
Yeah. Yes, that's what our plan is. First to talk to you all before they get back, and then after they come back, get you all together
Okay.
at different places around the state to say, okay, it's midweek, you can leave the phone, you can come in, and we're going to work with you guys to work on how we help you. I want to have a special marriage retreat for you guys too, which we're working on too. Yeah.
Is it common just to be angry about, or kind of angry with the people who, first of all, thought it was a good idea to go into the war, and then are now complaining about Bush and.
Yeah, Kathy's saying, is it common for veterans to be mad at the people that supported us go to war and now are turning tail?
Yeah, right.
Is it common?
Yeah.
It's common with me. Because I have to fight that war you started, and now you just think it's no big deal? That's not fair.
Oh, I
Yeah, that just eats you alive. I don't watch the news anymore because of that. I just can't take it.
Right. Yeah.
My kids are like, whenever we're out in public and they hear the word Iraq, they hide. All right, I'll stand by if you have questions. Have a great day.